The Redmi 4 is one of the biggest success stories in Xiaomi's history, so it goes without a doubt that the brand would try to pull all the stops to replicate the success with its successor, the Redmi 5. With the launch right around the corner, it remains to be seen as to whether the Redmi 5 will be able to impress just as much, if not more, than the Redmi 4. This is Sandeep from Rev Atlas, and this is our Redmi 5 review. The Redmi 5 is a smaller device of the Redmi 5 and 5 Plus Duo. We've already done a review of the larger version and we'll include a link to that in the description for your viewing pleasure. Now, it's important to note that smaller is a relative term here. In fact, the Redmi 5 is a whole lot bigger than the Redmi 4 it succeeds, and the difference between the 5 and 5 Plus in terms of screen size is only marginal. The Redmi 4 had a 5-inch 720p screen, while the Redmi 5 gets a much bigger 5.7-inch 720p screen. However, the new IPS panel has an aspect ratio of 18:9 and also comes with some extra pixels due to aspect ratio that results in a resolution of 1440 by 720 pixels. The screen does look better than the previous generation, especially in terms of the color output and contrast. However, sunlight legibility is still a bit of an issue due to the highly reflective glass and also in spite of it being a bit brighter than the Redmi 5 Plus. There's a black strip between the screen and bezel that runs all around the display. However, it's difficult to spot it on a black unit. You may have seen it on a Redmi 5 Plus unit. Speaking of bezels, they have been reduced, and along with the curved display corners, the overall screen to body ratio is around 70%. The smaller bezels also mean that the capacitive keys have been traded in favor of on-screen keys. However, it also means having a handset that's much more compact than traditional large-screen smartphones with 16:9 screens. It's still larger in terms of height and width when compared to the Redmi 4, and as a result, it may not be as compact a phone as the previous one. However, it's still very easy to handle, and the curved back as well as corners improve the handling further. It feels like Xiaomi have improved build quality further, and in fact the aluminum body feels more refined than ever. The buttons too are a lot more tactile, and we also quite like the placement of the fingerprint scanner, which is both fast and accurate. It should be within reach for most people, even with small hands. The phone comes with Android Nougat and MIUI 9 on top of it. The chipset is now an octa-core Snapdragon 450, which we found to be better than the Snapdragon 435 on the preceding Redmi 4, not just in terms of performance, but also in terms of efficiency. We found the phone to be extremely smooth, and in some instances felt that it was better than the larger Redmi 5 Plus, even though that sounds a bit absurd. Perhaps the lesser number of pixels that the Redmi 5 has to push could be the reason. Weirdly enough, you don't get a 4GB variant this time around, but you can choose between a 16 and 32GB storage capacity with corresponding 2 or 3GB of RAM. The storage is expandable through the hybrid dual SIM card slot, and it also comes with an IR blaster at the top. One omission is the lack of dual band Wi-Fi support that the Redmi 5 Plus has. The bottom firing speaker is pretty good in terms of quality and is pretty loud as well, although it's not as loud as the one on the Redmi 5 Plus. The 3.5mm audio jack is still here, and output is again loud and pretty good. Call quality over the earpiece and speakers are pretty good as well. The camera unit is practically the same as its larger brother. A 12MP f2.2 unit with 1.25 micron pixel size and dual tone LED flash are there at the rear. A front facing 5MP unit with LED flash is there at the front as well. Here's what you can expect from the camera. We'll be doing a full camera review as well as a camera comparison between the two devices soon, so do stay tuned for that. We had talked a lot about the efficiency of the processor earlier on, and it comes into play in the battery life on this thing. A larger footprint means that having a phone that's just as thick as the Redmi 4 would not result in great handling and would have put off several prospective customers, especially those coming from the Redmi 4. Hence, Xiaomi took the decision to trim down the waistline to 7.7mm, and that has resulted in a smaller 3300 mAh capacity compared to the 4100 mAh unit on the Redmi 4. I half expected the battery life to take a big hit, especially with the larger display on board as well. However, surprisingly, it scored really well in our battery test. 8 to 9 hours of screen on time, and sometimes even giving close to 10 hours, especially thanks to a really great standby power efficiency. There's a micro USB port on board that supports 5V 2A charging to top up the battery as well. While the Redmi 5 Plus is a great device, it may not exactly be the ideal successor or update to the Redmi Note 4 that many people were looking at in case it does pan out to be the Redmi Note 5, especially when it's launched in India. The Redmi 5 on the other hand is actually quite a bit of an upgrade compared to the Redmi 4, especially in terms of the speaker setup, the performance, and the overall look and feel of the device itself. This is one smartphone I would definitely recommend to anyone shopping in this particular price range. That's it for this video guys. We hope you liked it. Do hit the like button and subscribe button if you did. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next one.